This is Ramona's Gift to Music, the podcast where we connect with individuals who are committed to making a positive impact on the musical lives of youngsters.
Hi, everybody. My name's John Mangione. I'm the co-founder of Ramona's Gift to Music. I have the pleasure today to introduce to you somebody that I respect highly in the music world. His name is Tony Garofalo. We're going to get into so many different things today, but I want to start with one thing. We were talking in the green room about our nationality, our descents from Italy, and every Italian family has Tony and Anthony's.
Right.
You're Tony.
I'm Tony Garofalo.
How did you get Tony and not, because I've spoken to Tonys and they say, no, my name is Anthony.
Well, you know, a lot of my friends when I was younger called me Anthony because that was my birth name, but the Tony sounded a little, like dock worker, like tough. So my friends all like to call me Tony. And you know what? I liked Anthony, but I liked Tony. My mother wanted a girl. She was all set here for Antoinette. So she had all the names, prearranged. So the Anthony was the alternate, for Antoinette. And I wound up wearing long hair like most of my life. My mother had no problem with long hair, rock music. She was like totally pro everything. But the Italians, my house was 100% Italian, and I was telling the guys, the coffee in the morning, I had the IV hooked up. As soon as I get up, and the coffee's going in, the papers, and you're Italian too, right, John?
My house was not much different. In fact, my grandmother, who was first generation, would come over on the weekends and make my sister and I, at 4 and 5 years old, called it demitasse, espresso.
Oh, yeah.
And it was mud. It was literally this much
thick and dark.
This much of the espresso and this much of sugar. So when I drink my espresso to this day, I don't want the anisette or I just want it black with a little bit of sugar. So tell me a little bit about how you said your mother was very much into the rock thing. So how did music get into your blood?
Well, my father was a mandolinist. He was in the New York Mandolin Orchestra. And a lot of people don't really know that because they're not really hip to mandolins, but there was, for 35, 40 years, there was a New York Mandolin Orchestra. It was like a 45-piece orchestra. You first violin, second violin. There were first mandolin, second mandolin.
Just mandolins?
Mandolins. There was a mandocello, bass mandolin. It was really fascinating. They used to play Carnegie Hall every year, and I was a kid, and I used to go see my father. My father was a classical guitarist. He was a luthier. He's built over 200 instruments, mandolins and guitars.
So tell the audience what a luthier is.
A luthier is a man that, or a woman that can construct a guitar from scratch. He can put frets on the neck, and he can cut the wood, cut the sides and the back, the whole thing from beginning to end. And he did that for years. He was a machinist, and he really, because of him, I got a lot of the drive, a lot of the knowledge, to play music, and working with my hands, as we'll talk about later, with cars. But he had a music school in Ozone Park. He was a guitar teacher, and my mother was a dance teacher, and they had a music school in Ozone Park, Ozone Park. That's where I grew up on 101st Avenue. When we used to see John Gotti every year, with the parade, and it was all Italian, real Italian. You could smell the tomato sauce, in the streets. And my mother had the basket outside that she would lower, from the apartment house. Yep. Anthony, with the money.
So did your family call it Zeppelins or Sfinge?
Sfinge.
Sfinge?
Yeah. So that's where I grew up, and they had a music school, and I learned guitar from my father. And growing up.
How old?
5.
Okay.
Yeah, so I started playing guitar when I was 5, and he didn't force feed me. He basically said, I was fascinated watching him, play and watching him work on cars. He was my stepfather. My mom got divorced when I was very young, and my mother remarried, and so really he was my father. He was the father that raised me, and oddly enough, he's the guy that taught me everything and set me down.
So you took after him?
I took after him. I eventually went to Italy and I met my real father. He's from Naples, and that's a whole other story, but I found my father, when I was 26, 27, and I met him for the first time. But having a father that was very handy, and a luthier, and a musician, and a machinist, it was a wild childhood, and my mother was really supportive. When I was a teen, I was in a rock band. We played, Black Sabbath and Zeppelin, and my mother said, "I'd rather have you in the house,
right,
with all your friends, playing loud music with the windows are shattering, than to have you out on the street,
100%,
right? To have you out in the street with all your friends, getting into trouble." And
Absolutely.
I had probably half of my friends were either in motorcycle accidents, that died. I had friends that were into drugs. Friends that ended up in jail. I mean, you could go the wrong way. And I thank God with my kids ended up fantastic. And I wound up...
So you have two, right?
I have two, yeah. I have a boy and a girl, 26 and 29. And I wound up being a New York City police sergeant. I was a cop for 20 years.
Well, go back to the kids, aren't we? Isn't there a special occasion coming up
Yeah,
soon?
we're in a very special occasion. My daughter is having a baby, and we know what it is. It's going to be a boy, and so I'm going to be a grandpa. And I'm like, do I look like a grandpa? Well, I'm going to be a grandpa.
Well, we just started out right out of the gate talking about all the things, or some of the things that you're involved in, but the audience probably knows who you are, but what's your claim to fame, your biggest project that you have going on?
Well, the biggest project that I have going on is the Beatles.
And you
Strawberry Fields. I'm Mr. Strawberry.
And you are from what Beatle?
I played John Lennon in the band Strawberry Fields, and we're together 36 years. I was doing a lot of gigs with Beatlemania from Broadway. I was doing a lot of touring shows.
When you say that, because I know you were very involved with Beatlemania. How did you get into that circuit with those guys who were phenomenal?
You know what? There were 12 bands that played on Broadway.
That were Beatlemania.
Beatlemania. So 4 times 12, that's a lot of musicians. And it only lasted on Broadway for about 3 years, and then it became a touring act. And then all those guys who are not on Broadway anymore all have their own bands. So there's a lot of bands that are splintered all over the United States that were in Beatlemania that have their own bands now. So I got calls, to play with so many bands and so many cast members. I'd get a call, to fly to some show in Colorado with 3 guys I never played with, but I knew they were all from Beatlemania. And
they knew their material.
And they know their parts, they know their harmonies, and you go over a song list. You're in the green room, going over the show 2 hours before, and going on and playing like you've played together for 5-6 years. So, I was in a touring act, and I got called to play John Lennon. So there came a time where I decided to start my own band. Instead of getting a call and going out and playing with guys, sometimes I'd hook up with the same guy or the same McCartney in California, or I'd go to Texas and play with some George Harrison that I played with. But I decided to start my own band to have the same guys who people can go see Strawberry Fields featuring cast members from Beatlemania and not have to pay $150 for a ticket, for a theater ticket. A lot of the places I was playing at, there were theaters, and the prices were $65, $75. So we brought the Beatlemania concept and the quality of the show like locally, and that's what I did. In 1990, it really took off, and that's when I started, recruiting people, and I have subs for everybody. I have a sub for me,
yourself,
just
right.
in case I break my arm. And it happened in the '90s. I actually broke my wrist, and I was out of commission. And so we have subs. I have a sub for McCartney, for Ringo, for Harrison. And so Strawberry Fields, that's my engine. And we just celebrated our 200th show at City Winery in New York City.
Tell everybody a little bit about City Winery, because that's where they know you're there on a pretty frequent basis.
This show is in all the tourist books now. When you book a vacation, like, what can you do in New York? So we get people coming from, I ask the audience each and every Sunday, where you from? We take a little break, and we go, hi, I'm from England, I'm from Scotland, I'm from China, I'm from India. We have people from all over the world constantly coming in and out of City Winery. So City Winery is a restaurant, and it's a music venue, and they have all national acts, but we have a residency, and we're there every Sunday at 12 o'clock noon, and we do the Beatles show in full costume, and it's a great gig. I've been there for 4 years. We just did our 200th show, and we did a very similar show when we played in Times Square. We played at B.B. King's.
Right.
I was there for 18 years. Put the kids through college.
Wow.
I was there for 18 years. I played every Saturday. Really the same type of show. But B.B. King's, like everything else, doesn't last forever. And when they closed their doors in it was 2018, we were looking for a home. So I was playing a lot of venues around Manhattan, around New Jersey, and Long Island. And then City Winery called us, and they said, you know what? We were looking to call you guys when you were at B.B. King's, but this is a close business, and we didn't want to,
step on anybody's toes,
right, and try to pull you out of BB's. But they were kind of happy that we were out of there. Why don't you come here, try it out? At the time, they had their place over on Varick Street in Manhattan, so we did 4 shows, packed, on a Sunday, which is like, how are you going to get people to come to Manhattan on a Sunday? They was telling us, you know what? We were throwing everything at the wall to see if it's going to stick, and everything we tried to do on a Sunday, they didn't work. Beatles attracts everybody. Kids in the audience that are 4 or 5 years old, they know the words better than I do, and it runs the gamut. People in their 90s know the Beatles. It's crazy.
So I have a musical question for you, and this, for all the young musicians out there. Your 200th show,
200 show at City Winery.
200 show. Been playing the Beatle material for 36 years.
With Strawberry Fields, and
tell the
even
young artists out there, how do you keep it fresh every show?
I just said this a couple of days ago. I just played on Sunday, and at the end of the show, everybody. It was a Mother's Day show, and we did our 200th show, and everybody was going bananas. The place was packed. And at the end of the show, I asked everybody, so, did you have a good time? Was it great? Was it worth the money? Talking like John, do you think you'd come back to see us? And screaming, yeah. I said, you could see we're all having fun, and it never gets old, because the music is iconic. It gives me chills sometimes, because if it's done right, and you're a musician, there are moments when you're on stage when the band you're playing with is so good. There are moments on stage when it sounds like the Beatles. Right. There are times when there's mistakes too. I'm going to be honest, but very rarely. And you know what? The audience knows. The audience is the judge. They know if the band's going to stink after the first and second song.
You open up your mouth on the first song.
First, second song, the audience knows if you stink or if you're great. I play in other bands too, and I tell people that I play with, you know what? We're going to have a party on stage. We're going to have a good time, and that will convey to the audience. If we're having a good time and we're confident and we're giving it that punch, the audience is going to know.
Let me tell you something, everybody. You definitely have to go see them, and not because he's sitting right next to me, and not because he's a very good friend of mine as well, and we have played together over the years. He is the most like John Lennon that I have ever seen. The other members, not taking no disrespect against the other members, I've listened to them. You have to go on their website Tony sounds like John Lennon. You're the closest vocal.
I appreciate
and
that.
When you listen to, for lack of a better word, a tribute band, the audience recognizes the vocals. They really don't know how perfectly you're playing every note through a song.
Right.
But when you open up your mouth and they go, that sounds like the Beatles.
Yeah, like I said,
They sit back and relax.
yeah. And the Beatles, there's a lot of singing and a lot of harmony. And there's the third voice, we call it. There's John and Paul sing a lot of songs solo, but there are songs where they sing together, where the two voices come together and create a third voice.
No pun intended, come together.
Come together, right. And that third voice, if you listen to the records, when they're singing together, you'll hear a third voice that's totally new from John and Paul. I think we have that because the people people know that.
So, moving on.
And they're sincere too, because they let you know. And the moment you walk on stage, they look at the Beatle boots, and they look at the pants, and they look at the sideburns, they look at the hair and the jacket you're wearing. They want to feel like they're at a Beatle show because they never saw the Beatles live, and this is their chance, to relive that.
100%.
Yeah.
And audiences might not know musically if you're perfect, but they know when you're not.
Isn't that amazing?
They know when you're not authentic.
Yeah.
They don't know why.
I've had people walk up to me that I played at their wedding 20 years ago. Come to my show. They've come to City Winery. Hey, remember me? Of course I remember you. And they're amazed that I remember that because I have a photographic memory somewhat, and I remember faces and I remember people because it means a lot to them. Like when you recognize people and you shake their hands, people come up to me after the show and they want me to sign. We have our own rosé, City Winery Strawberry Fields Rosé. It's bottled wine, with our faces on it. And
that's great.
I sign the bottles for the people at the end of the show, and they're thrilled. They feel like they're special, and they are special because they paid money to come see us.
Yep. So you have some other projects on the. Going on now. You're playing Darrell House with.
We're playing at Darrell's house in Pawlings, New York, Thursday, May 15. I'm playing in a band called New York to Boston. Now, as soon as you hear the title of the band, it's Boston. Now, I'm a big fan of the guitar, the lead guitar. I played John Lennon. John didn't play lead guitar, so I'm kind of like boxed in because, I'm boxed into this character where I play John Lennon and I'm playing rhythm guitar and I'm singing and, come together.
Right.
But I don't play lead guitar, and I'm a lead guitarist. I play Ozzy and Sabbath and all that stuff. So Boston has been a band, like most people growing up in the 70s. You don't have to be a musician. Boston, is iconic music. And I always wanted to get a band together and play the music of Boston, but we can never find a singer that could sing.
Yeah.
So we put this band together about a year ago, and it's amazing.
And it's
so much fun.
Another, few of our buddies,
So,
one of the guitar players.
Yeah. I'll name the members. One of the guitar players was on this show. His name is Steve Pisani. And he was on this show, and he's a good friend of mine. We grew up together. I know him since I was 15 years old, and he is the greatest guy. I'm telling you, the laughing.
Have you ever met anybody that knows Steve Pisani say that? And he's always everybody's best friend.
What? And he really is a nice guy. He really is very genuine, and I love the guy. And he just recently came into the band, and we started rehearsing together. And it's all guitar. That there's a lot of homework doing harmonies. When you listen to the old Boston records, the guitar harmonies are very intricate. And they have to be spot on. So there I am with my childhood friend.
That's great.
Sitting in his basement, going over songs that we listened to when we were 16, 17 years old. So I'm in the band with Jamie. His name is Jamie. He's on guitar. Rich Foreman on keyboards. And we have Vinny Madonna on drums. Tommy Heaney from 631 Auto. He's the bass player. He's the brainchild that put put the whole band together, and Steve Pisani,
Yeah.
and the singer from Decadia is Pete Santorino. So we have like an all-star band.
Yeah, no, it's a powerhouse.
I have a lot of talent, and we're coming to Daryl's on Thursday, if you're in the area, and if you don't get to see us on Thursday, we're going to be around. We're coming to the Bolton Center in September.
Awesome.
But if you get a chance to come see us, it's great. It's so much fun.
So tell everybody one thing that nobody would know about you, that they would say, that's different. I could think of two things, just from talking to you before we started.
Well, what do you think?
Well, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Chitty
How
Chitty
did you
Bang
know
Bang.
Dick Van Dyke?
Yeah, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. So that goes back to Radio City. Now, my uncle worked for United Artists. He was one of these prop guys. And he was in United Artists for a while. And we would go to his house. This was my mother's brother. His name was Vinny, my cousin Vinny. And he was a prop guy. And back then, years ago, when you filmed a movie and you were done, the costumes and the props went in the garbage. They didn't save anything like they do today. Everything gets numbered and tagged, goes into a warehouse, and then 10 years later,
Right.
20 years later, they have an auction, right?
Right.
So there were a few costumes that he held on to that were worn by Dick Van Dyke in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. He got us tickets to see Chitty Chitty Bang Bang on its premiere at Radio City in 1968.
Wow.
I was 4 years old. He said, have tickets. So it was my mom and his son was Vinny, my cousin Vinny, and me. And I was 4 years old, and there I am at Radio City seeing the movie Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, and I'm watching this car that can fly, can float, and for a kid, you know what? For a kid, it was amazing. Now, my father was a garage mechanic, so when I came out of the movie, the first thing I told my mother, I said, I'm going to build that car someday, right? Imagine a kid saying that to his mother. So my mother was like, okay, great, someday. And it was working on me for years. And I was in the police department, and I was raising kids. Your life happens, and you're working, making a living, but it was always in the back of my mind. So when I retired, I got some retirement money, and I decided I was going to build this car. So, I had to find a donor, I had to find something I was going to build it on. So I found a 1914, it was an Overland car, which is the Willys Overland company. I found an old rusted chassis, which there are pictures online of it. You'll see it on our website for Chitty. The car was a 1914, and I transformed it over 5 years. I built a Chitty Chitty Bang Bang car.
That's awesome.
And it entailed brass work and bright work and steel and mechanics and woodworking, and it was a whole,
So you really are a
was a
Renaissance.
whole big, huge project.
You are a 21st century Renaissance
That's
man.
what people say to me all the time, and I don't take it seriously. But to some people who don't really know all the facts, when they hear on the surface, they're like, "How could you be involved in so many things and so many interests?" I have interests in. We were talking about coin collecting.
Right.
I've been coin collecting U.S. coins since I was a kid. 5 years old. My grandfather opened the drawer of his dresser and showed me all these old coins, and I was fascinated that these were different coins than the ones that my mother had in her pocketbook, and they were dirty and had buffaloes on them and an Indian. And once I started collecting, it became a hobby, and I have tons and tons of coins that have been certified and going back to the 1700s. And I'm just fascinated. I still am, and they'll all go to my kids someday. But it's just it's a lot of fun. So getting back to Dick Van Dyke, so we build the car. We decide to put it into the New York Auto Show. It goes into the New York Auto Show. Jacob Javits, they never had Chitty Chitty Bang Bang there. Millions of people, right? We get an article in the New York Times, a three-page article. It's online. You'll see it online. A three-page article with full shots of me in the car, and you build shots in the New York Times. So with that said, I go out with I have a costume that was worn by Dick Van Dyke. So I heard that he was going to be at a convention center in California. So I contacted his agent and I said, you know what? I have this costume. I'm not a super fan. I'm not going to, do anything, that's going to be horrible. I just want to show it to him. And he probably hasn't seen this in years. So sure enough, he says, sure. So I go out to Los Angeles and I meet with him and his wife, and she sees the New York Times article, and now the snowball begins with the car and the costume, and I wind up spending time with them and taking pictures and just getting to know the both of them, and it was great because this is the guy that I watched on the movie, and Dick Van Dyke is going to be 100. God bless him.
I know.
He is everything that you think he is on TV and in the movies. The nicest guy, sweetheart. His wife is a sweetheart. So we get a call that he's going to his hometown. He's going to Danville, Illinois, and he's going to his hometown where he grew up, and they're going to be doing like this media thing at his high school, and he's going to be in town. First time back there in 50 years. Would you be interested? Of course. So they call us and they arrange to have the car,
Wow.
So we bring the car out to Danville, Illinois, and there we are for 3 days spending with Dick Van Dyke. And there's pictures all online. And then fast forward, he just turned 98. He's 99 now. CBS called us. They had a television show called 98 Years of Magic. Once again, they call us. We're having this television special. We're filming in Hollywood for CBS. Would you be interested?
All started with a
with
a 4-year-old
just
who
a dream.
was amazed.
With just a dream.
So
there we are. They shipped the car to CBS. I was a little nervous because I was not with my baby for like a week. It takes a week for the car to get to LA, and we get to the set and they put us up, and the whole 9 yards, the flights and everything, and we get there. And I meet Rob Reiner, I meet Tony Danza. I mean, if you watch the show, it's called 98 Years of Magic. It's streaming on CBS. You got to watch it. It's a 2-hour comedy variety show with dancing.
Okay.
It's great. It's really, really great. And
so close us out.
Yeah.
How do people find you? Website, you mentioned online. How do people find you?
Find us on Strawberry Fields, thetribute.com, and it's the same on Facebook, Strawberry Fields, The Tribute. And for the Boston band, it's New York to Boston. So
awesome.
You'll find us on Facebook, and the Chitty is NewYorkChitty.com, NYChitty.com, and that's really soup to nuts on Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. So.
Follow Tony Garofalo, his websites. This is John Mangione, co-founder of Ramona's Gift to Music.
It was a pleasure.
Tony,
A pleasure to be here.
This was
Thank
great.
you, John.
Thank you for
Thanks
your time.
for everything.
Have a good day.
Fantastic.
If you've been touched by what you've learned today and would like to make a tax-deductible contribution to help further our cause, please visit rgmfoundation.org. Thank you.